and Joe know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 717,
Hey,
A palindrome.
Disenchanted.
thank you. That's what I've had.
That's
Yes.
what I hear.
thank you.
That's what Joe keeps calling it.
We're here in real
Disenchanted.
life.
Yeah.
and I'm almost done editing last week's episode. They let me come up for air to do another one, and then I have to get right back to editing.
We brought Kevin up from the salt mines.
Yes, we make him sleep under the stairs like Harry Potter. So let's go around the table and everyone can introduce themselves.
This is Joe.
This is Kevin.
And this is Tom. Quick shameless plugs. Don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find a podcast. You can find us while you're there. Be sure and leave us a review and also follow us so you never miss an episode. I was told by a little birdie that's not Twitter.
I was going to say.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that we have a new review.
We do. We
Okay.
do. This one came in last Sunday, actually, so I guess it came in after we recorded.
Well, there's also a lag time between
Right
when
on.
it posts and
When
like
it was-
when they hit send and when you see it.
I gotcha.
All the little elves at Santa's workshop have to go over all of it.
They're
make sure
busy right now, man.
I know.
That's-
It's
I
their
don't know
busy
what
season.
I don't know why there's a delay on the reviews on Apple Podcasts because they will let you say anything.
Remember that one that we got pulled?
Yeah, I've had a couple pulled over the years. Like on Clip Out, I've had people that like don't like our podcast mainly because they host their own Peloton podcast that sound like the audio equivalent of paint drying.
Uh-huh.
But
Oh, ASMR is very popular.
yeah, but they called Crystal fat.
Oh.
And I was just like, and I report, and they took it down. But I'm
Okay.
like, but so why is the delay? Because there's clearly you're not vetting. these
Yeah, right,
things,
right.
You know,
No, what was that? Oh, there was like what did they call us? It was for our Rambo.
They
last.
meant pretty hot and tempting, Tom. That's
What's
a
that?
thing the young
Yeah,
kids say.
right,
Pretty
right.
hot and tempting. It's a different
Oh,
kind
PHAC.
I see. Well, he
Yeah.
didn't spell it with a P.
Well, they're dumb, too. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
What was I think it was one of our Rambo. The Rambo.
Yeah, there was
Oh,
people mad
last
because
butt.
we were like, he's only killing Mexicans. Like, why is he only killing
All of the
Mexicans?
bad guys in this movie
And I
are
had-
Mexicans.
I remember they were like, I loved the show up until that was the turning point.
Right. I thought they hated Mexicans as much as I did.
yeah, right.
This is
don't know.
disconcerting.
What led you to believe that? But
Right.
Anyway, back to this review,
Oh.
which I
Yes.
got to tell you, once I read it, that last conversation's not going to go over well.
Right.
Oh.
This is from Anime Girl 225.
Okay.
It's called White Men Podcast. It's a 5-star review.
Redundant, but go on.
Is that a remake of White Men Can't Jump?
Yeah.
Oh, sign me up for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. As much as I dislike white men telling me about things, I must say that out of all the White Men podcasts, this one is my favorite. I have only been listening to them for a few
Let
months.
me mansplain to you why that is. Here's why you like us, little girl.
Jeez.
I've only been listening to them for a few months and have been working through all of their old ones. It definitely has gotten better over the years. 5 out of 5.
Yeah, if you go back far enough,
It's-
you're gonna get mad at us.
Without
I
question.
probably assure you.
It'll be me. It's
Yeah.
fine.
I'll tell you what. I'm just going to say editing last week's podcast and bringing up tragedies on movie sets and other actors who have passed
Yeah, I
away
know.
untimely really got me thinking.
I know.
Really got me
Yeah, I was
thinking.
like, if we ever became famous, we would get canceled so fast.
So we would get famous and then canceled.
and then canceled
Immediately.
all of it. Maybe it's happened. We got famous, but we were
didn't know.
canceled so quickly we
That-
never found out.
You know that R.I.P.D. episode?
Yeah.
That was it.
That was the one.
That was the one. We,
Yeah.
we made it, and then they were
17,000.
like, nope.
Episode 5, we were about to really take off.
Yeah.
And they listened to 1 through 4, and we were
You're like,
done.
hard pass.
So
Yeah.
don't go every listener that we have every week. Don't go back and download every single episode. We would hate for you to download 700 episodes per person. That would really throw things off.
Yeah, please don't
do that, please.
Please, whatever you do.
But that was a very nice review.
It was
and I
great.
totally get why she feels that way.
Yes.
Like yeah, there's
Because that's what it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially in this field.
Yes.
Right. Like
Yes.
it's so. But there's more things. I would love to know what made her start listening. Not in a
That
bad
is
way,
like,
but
no,
like,
no, no.
what
Yeah,
was
how
the
it works.
But
episode
like,
that-
if she's just like, three white guys talking about movies, like,
How did
what
you
made
find
her?
us?
What made her dive in? Is
So
it,
let's do this. Anime Girl 225.
yeah,
If you're still listening,
Like-
maybe reach out on the Facebook page
Or
or
the-
whatever,
or
and
the
let us
tweet
know.
machine if
yeah,
that's still
yeah,
around.
Yeah, maybe Twitter if that still
Yeah.
exists. By the time this episode goes up, let us know. Like, how did you find the show?
yeah. Like and even beyond why you found it, what made you listen?
Yeah.
Because it's like if like I understand
Totally.
why you were like, three white guys. That just sounds. But it's like, but then what made you die? Is it just like when you get a sore tooth and you can't stop playing with it? Like,
Right,
I don't
right,
know.
right.
I'm just.
Let's
I'm
just see.
curious.
Let's just see how
Yeah.
far their misogyny goes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it never happened. See?
No.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, we try not to.
We try not to. I mean, sometimes I say it just to be silly.
Well,
Because it's so over the top
not-
It
ridiculous.
is. It's almost like I feel like now with the video, people will be able to tell more. It's
Yeah.
almost like
They can
sending
see
a
the look on our face. and
correct.
we're like,
Correct.
Yeah.
It's
Joe's
almost
OnlyFans subscribers have gone way up.
Yeah,
since the video.
skyrocketed.
It's in the tens.
It's easily
Yes.
0.5s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, and also, what is your favorite anime? Just
Oh,
out of
yeah, also a good
curiosity. Yeah, let
question.
us know. Yeah.
Yeah. I know nothing about anime.
Yeah, recommend some because I don't really
Yeah.
know it. I mean, I know like there was like Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, like the basic ones
And
that everybody
Akira.
knows.
Akira.
Akira for
Yeah,
sure,
right,
but like,
right.
what are the deep cuts that would
Speed
be
Racer,
Oh yeah.
that you would
The
introduce?
Guyver. That was
Yeah.
mine. That was my intro.
Like, if we
Was
want to
the
be
Guyver.
more
Battle of the Planets.
yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Culture us. Tell us what is the stuff to watch.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like there's a kid in this house that could probably tell us.
Yeah, my stepdaughter could tell you for
Yeah,
sure.
right.
Yeah,
Look at you, dumbasses.
yeah. Like, oh, adults, you're the worst. So,
We are the worst.
she was. I remember when she was like 13. She really went through a phase about like how dumb adults are.
Yeah.
and I was just
Oh.
like, and so finally one day I was like, are you worried? She's like, about what? I'm like, well, I mean, at some point you're going to be an adult. Like, at what point do you think you'll get this fucking stupid? Like, it's going to happen, right? Like, if that's what you think of adults, like,
the end game
you're
is
gonna
that.
be one. So, like, do you think at 18 somebody just puts an ice pick to your head, or they take you up to a room like McMurtry and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
All of a
Like,
sudden you come back.
yeah, and you just come back, and then like you then what?
suffocate me with a pillow.
Your girlfriend will suffocate you with a pillow just out of compassion. So I don't know, but it's your day's coming. You're
Think of
you're getting dumber every day, girl. Every day.
That Simpsons episode where was it that Flanders was the like ruler of the world or whatever, and he was lobotomizing people.
Oh, yeah, the Treehouse of Horror.
Yeah. And Moe's like they just let you keep
Put
a
me
piece
in
of
a little
brain
jar.
that comes out.
He
Oh,
calls it.
hello.
What does he name
Hello
it?
there.
He named it something.
Yeah,
I can't
right,
remember what he named. Yeah.
So, Facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. It's called the League of Show Sharers because we're hoping you'll share an episode. So
There's
here,
this social media that will never go anywhere. The owner doesn't make any dumb decisions.
correct.
So we'll always be there
It
forever.
is. I mean, you're not wrong though. Like he does make about the platform at least.
yeah.
you
but
know, like
have
he-
you heard of the metaverse? Are you familiar with it?
I mean, I know. I know what
Are you
exists.
familiar with how much money he's spent in the
Oh,
last
no.
year?
Does it even exist? Could I go do it if I wanted to? I hear all the talk about
I
it. but
see the logo.
I never see anything, weirdly enough, in my Facebook feed that's like,
It's all NASCAR.
go to the metaverse.
It's all NASCAR, and
It is.
there's no overlap.
I made the mistake. I was saying, maybe this will be a deleted scene. I made the mistake of watching a NASCAR video because I just couldn't tell what was going on, and so now I get nothing but NASCAR videos in my feed. It's
That's
like
what
we used to, for a while we were doing these late night Mexican concerts at the arena.
Okay.
And I would research them to put the information on our website, and then for like 6 weeks, my YouTube pre-roll was entirely in Spanish.
Oh, sure.
And I was like, oh, you just wasted 0.3 cents.
Because I can't understand
'Cause
that.
I don't know. Yeah, and if I could, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
I don't. It's just not my jam. But
Sure,
like,
sure,
it's
sure.
But I'm just like, well, this is a complete waste.
Well, so in this past year, Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook that they changed the name to, they've spent $15 billion on the
Golly.
metaverse. And I don't have the figure in front of me, but it's going to be a small number. They've either brought in revenue of either 50 or 500 million from their 15 billion in spending, and they just laid off a bunch of people because he's just spending.
Well, maybe
If
they
they're
could
all
go get a job at Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Or Instagram. No, wait.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're all in. Like Meta, if this metaverse thing doesn't work out,
It
their
sounds like
value has dropped something like 80%.
it just sounds like a really bad comic book crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Here comes the metaverse.
Into the metaverse of madness.
You should see the go look at the video. I mean, in 10 years, people could be listening back to this episode and laughing at us. Maybe it would
Like
be
when Joe said Guardians of the Galaxy
just-
was going to be the first flop
exactly.
from Marvel.
Yeah. So,
and then Man of Steel was going to work.
but go look at the video.
Well, you said it after you saw Man
I
of
do.
Steel. That's the
true.
problem.
I screwed
there.
that up.
Yeah, like you were all in.
But go look at the videos, and I'll try to find you a clip, Tom, of what the metaverse looks like and what they're spending $15 billion
Yeah.
on.
Golly.
And had to lay off 11,000 people or whatever. And
It looks
oh
like
man,
like a Dire Straits video.
it looks like. Did you ever play the old Nintendo?
No.
Well, the Nintendo Wii, everyone had it with
Oh, yeah,
bowling and all that.
yeah.
You
Sure,
know those
sure.
amiibos, those
Yeah.
you made your little Mii characters. Sorry, Mii's.
Yeah,
That's what it looks like?
It doesn't look much better than that. And that was 10 years
it's
ago.
like a bunch of
It's-
Snapchat icons walking around.
It is. It
Yeah.
literally, you can make your avatar looks like a little cartoony.
So you're
early
saying that Ready
2000s.
Player One didn't get it right?
I
At
mean,
least not yet.
I already look like a cartoon from the early 2000s. I don't need someone to make another one.
yeah,
I'm good.
Yeah,
it's something. So I mean,
Yikes.
we'll see if any of this social media stuff's around in this
knows?
form in
Yeah.
a few years.
It'll be something else.
Yeah.
it's all Web3, man.
Until Tom's like, guess what? Bringing back MySpace.
Oh,
Yeah.
that time.
That Tom.
Yeah, not
or
me.
no,
I'm
or
like-
this Tom. It could
Yeah.
be either one.
Yeah, it's probably
Yeah.
about enough where I could afford it.
Probably.
So, people who were kind enough to share an episode this week: Librarian Cynthia, Chris Sanders, Gabriel Lugo, Tammy Lynn Powers, Betts, Travis Tewitt, Ralph Triple, Chris Magic Man, Julianne Jordan, Brent Smith, Josh Rosen, Christopher Rex, Heather Sachs, Chris Falls, Dissect That Film, Ken Holtzhauser, Vertigay 314, Colby Mack, Mike and Oscar, Ronnie Castle, Geek to Me Radio, Binge Movies, Invasion of the Remake, In Session Film, Matt Naglia, Ryan Terry, Feelin' Film. And just to irritate Brad Hyan, I'm going to say Tom O'Keefe. I shared the episode, and I was only on for 3/4 of
That's
it.
fair.
Oh.
So
We'll count it.
I'm
We'll
giving
count it.
myself
Yeah.
credit.
I mean,
Just
I
say
thought you
say
could-
your first name.
like toe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, whatever 1/4 of.
Yeah, that's math.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It sucks.
That's
the
So it's
worst.
just a technicality. So
Yeah.
if you leave early, that's interesting to know.
Yeah. So yeah, if Blake had shared.
You made the joke before I did.
Yeah. So where else? What else do I talk about here? We have a Patreon, patreon.com/theclipout. Where
No, wait a minute.
Oh, sorry, I'm half asleep.
Oh
Slash-
boy.
Well, you can go there too. Patreon.com/real spoilers. I'm surprised I don't do that more often than I do. Where for $5 a month you can get all sorts of bonus content, and we like you extra.
That's right.
There's a cool episode
There
coming
is.
up for the highly demanded return of the box office report.
Yeah.
We have a super sized 2.5 hour long
my God.
episode on the 2022 box office.
Is
the
that
whole
really how
year.
long that was?
We talked for 2.5
Oh,
hours.
It was
Oh,
so
my
much fun. I
word.
didn't even know.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, because I was like, I have to finish editing this Black Panther podcast.
We don't even, but we don't really edit the Patreon.
You just
Not as hardcore as the main show.
Right.
you just pull out the comments when you go full Kanye.
Never gone full Kanye.
Never go full Kanye.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, but like Kanye, you are not worth $1 billion.
I am not anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there
Yeah,
you
I
go.
never
all
was.
since those
He did.
Guardians of the Galaxy comments.
I
those,
Yeah.
I wasn't even on the R. Well, maybe that was the problem.
What's
I
that?
wasn't on the RIPD episode.
Ah,
There it is. Figured it out.
wasn't that the second episode?
that was the fifth, I thought,
Oh,
was
okay.
the.
Did you miss the second one?
No, I don't know.
It was Lone Ranger, then it was Two Guns the second episode.
I definitely did Two Guns.
It was early on.
And
for
Lone
sure.
Ranger I did. Man of
Yeah.
Steel I did.
And then there's just, I don't even know. I mean, if you guys, you got to think 717 episodes
Yeah.
ago.
That was 2013.
715 episodes. I mean, that's a lot of recording.
That's not
Think of
even the Patreon.
hours. We should add up the hours. How much? And
let's
not
not.
editing or anything, but just not seeing the movies.
Right.
How
I
much
don't-
have we spent talking?
I don't wanna
on
see
this
that.
Yeah.
podcast?
I really don't.
And then put it into years. Like, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Like, can someone go back and listen to a year of us talking straight without stopping? I want to know what the.
I got to tell you, there are
How the
times when I
math
look
works out.
on video games when it says you've played this for X amount of hours, and I see that number, I was like, "Fuck,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Oh,
that's
right.
a lot of hours."
They should put that on your tombstone.
I know.
So
He played WWE Superstars 2K18 for
It's
370
just
hours.
WWE 2K whatever. There's no superstars
so
in the
your
title.
your kids can go and look at your tombstone and be like, he missed like 8 of my soccer games.
playing this stupid game.
Yeah. So anyway, there's all that. Let's dig into Disenchanted.
Disenchanted. This is, I got to tell you, like, I think I remember really enjoying the original
The
one.
first one is great.
fantastic.
It's a lot of
It is
fun, really
yeah,
well done,
delightful.
and
Just
it's a great premise.
Yeah, I think it's a
And
really good premise.
I refuse to believe it was 15 years ago.
I know,
I
right?
looked at
Is that right?
Yeah,
15.
2007.
I mean, because I always think about that movie. I loved it. I always talk about it, rewatch it every once in a while. I could not believe when I saw 2007. That just mind-boggling. I would have thought it was 10 years ago. Yeah.
Man.
And this movie might have worked if it was 8 years ago.
See, okay,
telling
that's that. I think overall I enjoyed this movie. I like that this is.
It was fine.
It was
Yeah.
okay.
But it does not even come close to the original.
No,
Agreed.
I would agree with that, and I wonder if that's because
They waited too long.
they did wait.
First
too
off,
long.
they try to play games with the time by saying it's been 10 years when we
Right.
know it's been 15.
right.
Do
But-
they say it's been 10?
Well, according to Wikipedia, it says 10 years after the events of the film. So
Because
I'm
on
assuming I missed something.
IMDb, I think they even said 15 because that's what got me wondering.
Huh.
But it's like,
IMDb says 15 years after her happily ever after, Giselle questions her happiness.
okay, Wikipedia says 10, so I just assumed I missed
Yeah.
a title card or
I think
something.
it's supposed to be 15, but
I didn't know
doesn't
that,
matter.
I didn't know if they ever actually declared.
they might not.
But it can't be 15 because
That kid's not old
the
enough.
kid wouldn't be in high school. The kid would be.
Okay.
and it's the same kid from the first one, right?
Yeah.
It's the sa-
No?
Oh,
It's not the same kid.
Oh, I think they got
Okay.
the same girl back.
No.
Okay.
The girl has a cameo.
Oh, really?
Oh, who is she?
She's one of the townspeople. She's the townsperson that reminds her that there's a festival coming up.
Okay.
Oh, no kidding.
I wonder
Okay.
why
Yeah,
that
no,
was.
they did
That's
a good
weird.
job casting the new one. She looks like
'cause
a grown
Katie-
version of her.
Yeah, Katie had thought that, she's got the same girl. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
look it up because she said that, and I'm like, it don't look
Yeah, no,
familiar.
it's
Okay.
definitely a different girl.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, she'd be. I mean, that girl's 24.
Right.
So like, even if you play a little game, like the best you're going to get her to is be 20 or 22.
Sure.
You know, and so, so I mean, because if you think about it, this girl's supposed to be what, a junior in high school?
So
Yeah.
she's in high school.
Yeah,
I
they
mean, she's
never
definitely not a
declare.
freshman. She's not a senior.
So she's 16 or 17, which would have made her 1 or 2 in the first movie if it had been 15.
And that
15 years.
was Dempsey's daughter, right? Like that is
The
her
character?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, from
I
his
haven't-
mother passed away.
That's okay.
Yeah.
When she said, well, spoilers at the end of this movie, when she says, I want my mom back."
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
You just bring back a zombie mom.
Oh,
Like, what are you
yeah.
what are you doing? You're
Be
saying-
careful.
yeah.
If you know how these, contracts and things work with magic, it's
brought
always
back,
like
you brought back
Well,
the
we
wrong
all,
mom.
but we all know from Aladdin, there's no bringing back the dead.
That's also true.
There's no
That's-
wishing
yeah.
for more wishes.
Yeah.
I did think it was really cute. Did you guys catch all the
There's
the
a
Easter
lot.
eggs?
Yeah.
There's a lot
Like
in there.
they're because the stall in the village was like sugar dates, pistachios. That's like what the genie says at the beginning of Aladdin or whatever. Like there's just lots of little hidden Easter eggs from Disney movies, from outfits to the characters. I mean, it's cool how they planted little like the Disney movies, the princesses.
Elsa.
Well, yeah, Elsa is a very
And they let her sing this time.
They did, which I thought was like,
Yeah.
has there ever been somebody that got 2 bites at the Disney apple as 2 different like cartoon characters?
I mean, if you
Oh,
can
'cause she
count
gets
this as a
animated here.
little
Yeah.
cartoon character, isn't there? They've been in different movies. Oh man, I'm gonna get my Disney card revoked. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
that one of those
I have no
early
idea.
princesses played another princess.
Okay.
Or at least in some capacity.
Interesting.
There's been crossover.
I never
before.
heard the original voice of Winnie the Pooh pop up in other
Well, for sure.
Disney
Oh,
things.
sure.
Yeah.
But he does
Well, yeah.
like.
uh,
I mean, Alan Tudyk. is
Baloo
a-
the bear and the bear from Robin Hood. I mean, that's the same.
and Alan Tudyk is in everything at this point. He's all over
Alan,
the place.
well, yeah, and Alan Tudyk is literally just doing the King Candy from Wreck-It Ralph,
That's-
which
but
is
an
an Ed Wynn impersonation.
That's right, yeah.
Which is, so it's
Yeah.
just that, I thought that was kind of weird. It's like, oh, Alan Tudyk,
But he's
like,
also
oh,
doing. I mean, it's the Duke of Wesselton. Like it's the same voice from Frozen. He's the Duke
I
of
mean,
Wesselton.
it's similar, but like that. He's doing the Ed Wynn. It's closer to the Ed
King
Wynn
Candy.
impersonation, which is what King Candy is doing. So, but
no, there is like you've got the 3 like fairy godmothers from Snow White are in this. Not Snow White, is that right? Sleeping Beauty are in this as well. Like,
the
green-
Cinderella, the evil stepsisters, they're dressed like
are
like
they?
them. The
But
Drizella and
the 3 gals that like end up taking care of the baby are the same 3 gals from Snow White. Or from Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, like the little the fairies
Yeah.
that take care. Right.
Yeah.
So they do a clever job of planting all these things. But did you like the sisters when they were going to the party are dressed in the exact
I
same
did.
outfits as Drizella and
I was like,
whatever the other
that's fun. Like when
It
you can
is,
when
like-
you can play with that, you've got the whole
yeah.
like Disney-verse.
And they're
to
not,
play with.
and they're not bringing in with Wreck-It Ralph and the princesses. That was amazing. What the actual princesses, but in this one, they're not supposed to be those characters. They're more just Easter eggs of being homage to things.
Yeah.
But it's clever the way they work them in. It was fun. That made this movie more fun. I think trying to spot all the little Easter eggs. I mean, I love the first one, and this one I don't know if it was like this was filmed during COVID and it's just more contained or something, but I think the idea of Giselle going bad, turning evil, is a really interesting idea.
I thought the premise was great, which makes this movie very frustrating. The idea of she's gonna wish that her new town in suburbia that was a fairy tale world.
They WandaVisioned it.
Yeah, but I love the idea of if she lives in a fairy tale world. Now she's the wicked stepmother.
She didn't say I want the fairy tale to be happy for me. It's like you're the
when the stepdaughter says you're just my stepmother, and I was like, oh
yeah,
okay,
right.
I
it
see
was
what we're doing.
Really clever, but I just don't think the writing was good enough.
Yeah,
and then I looked at the end of the movie and I go, well, Alan Menken must not have done these songs because they're not good.
It's
like, but he did, and I'm like,
I wonder. Do you think these could have been leftover? I guess they can't because they're story centric. Right,
but you can repurpose material.
He could have had these.
True.
But I mean, if the clearly because it plays in the title sequence and everything, that Love Power song is supposed to be the big song, and it's like, no, it wasn't a great song.
Yeah,
Love Power over and over again. That just
she seemed kind of checked out to me. She seemed Amy Adams.
I thought she was good. I liked the way she would pivot.
I did like
being
that.
the evil stepmother.
I thought she played the evil stepmother really well.
Yeah.
I thought it was more interesting to watch her go bad because Giselle is such a sweet, perfect, innocent character. And normally, I think if you fall in love with that character, you'd be like, oh, I don't want to see her go bad because she's so great. But I think it was really interesting.
I think it helped too that she knew she was going bad and she's fighting against it.
Yeah.
So you just got flashes of it. You didn't get her bad the whole movie, and so I think that helps with that.
Sure.
But I think it still comes back to it's been too long.
Yeah.
And so a lot of her jokes revolve around not really understanding the way human world works.
Yeah,
and
I'm
she's been there for 15
You've been here for 15 years and you can't
Or,
figure out sarcasm.
even being gracious, she's been there for a decade.
Right.
Within the concept of the film.
Sure.
And
you can't be that oblivious to the way the human world works.
at some point she just seems like she's mentally challenged. You don't understand how the world works.
How sarcasm works.
And you've been living in it for 10 years.
I thought the same thing. When she said, oh, that's sarcasm, she's still trying to figure it out after 10 or so years.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. It was funny when she was fish out of water and just got there. But even a year later, you're still getting accustomed to it. But you can't have her go for a decade or 12 years or whatever.
I got to tell you, Brendan Fraser adapted to life in California for Encino Man real quick.
Yeah, you're right. The fish out of water thing doesn't work when you've been there that long. It just doesn't. And
I think if you take that part out of it, and I agree with you, because you're there. She's there too long, right?
Yeah.
And she's living in New York. Are you telling me that maybe the most cynical city probably in the United States, where you're just, are you telling me that she hasn't adopted some of that New York mentality? And not, if we have listeners in New York, I don't mean that in a bad way.
Well, it's it's the hustle. It's quicker.
Right.
But the other thing too is, and I'm torn on this because again, I think it's an interesting idea. I think the premise of the story is really interesting.
The premise is really good. They just didn't play with it as well as they did with the premise of the first one.
Right. But the other thing is too, I think the first one ended perfectly, which begs the question of these sequels that pop up 15 years later.
Yeah.
Do you really want them? Because the end of the movie is happily ever after. The whole movie is a fairy tale with a princess who finds her prince, who's not the prince that you'd expect it would be, and they live happily ever after. And then this movie starts, life sucks in the real world, and it's depressing, and they're looks like they're on the verge of divorce. And that is a more realistic, but we're not coming to Enchanted for that.
Right.
We want the happily ever after. So when they destroy the ending of the first movie by the happily ever after to make it realistic, it's I didn't come to this movie for realism.
Well, and that's the problem with sequels that you don't anticipate, right?
Yeah.
As much as people complain about Marvel being all middle,
sure,
and it's a fair complaint, but oftentimes when you make these sequels, you end up having to undo what you did in the first one.
How do you?
So you have conflict. And so then it just feels like, what do we hear? The one that always sticks out for me, and it's not a movie that I think most people even know exists, let alone would have seen, but Arthur 2.
I've never seen it.
right?
I didn't even know there was an Arthur
Yes,
2.
there's
Is he like at the beginning or at the end of the first movie? It like resolves,
Right.
He shouldn't.
Is it
have
the
to have a
same guy?
second.
He gets the girl. Yeah, it's still Dudley
Dudley
Moore,
Moore?
still Liza Minnelli. Yeah,
Oh.
and
Still Russell Brand.
yeah, they even get John Gielgud for a ghost cameo.
Okay.
right? But they have to completely undo what happens at the end of the first one. At the end of the first one, spoilers for a romantic comedy from 40 years ago. Like, he gets the girl he wants. They give him. The family decides to not disinherit him, and he's stopped drinking. And in the second one, they immediately come up with some plot device to where all his money's taken away, and he starts drinking again. And then
so it's just a
she gets
redo.
mad at him and leaves. And so, like, they completely undo everything in the first one, so they still have conflict.
Right.
Couldn't
But
you
it's a bummer when
couldn't
the
you just do
character-
the further adventures of Arthur?
But like,
But it's not-
But what's the conflict,
Right.
right? Like now the movie ended with he got the girl, the working class girl that his family didn't want him to have, and they decide to give him all the money.
The wedding.
Okay,
The
but-
wedding is your conflict.
But then it's just them fighting about a wedding.
But
like,
they're trying to recapture the magic of the
Sure,
first, which
yeah.
means he has to be a drunk with no money,
Right.
Or like I get it. Like I get from a business standpoint, they're
Right.
trying to make a sequel to these successful movies, and they do all this stuff. But from a fan's perspective, from someone who loved the first one,
And like that's
you're
what
just like,
that's what the Toy Story movies are so great about, right? Like
True.
they find a way to tell you there it is, the continuing adventures, right? They find a way to tell you a new story
Right.
with these same characters.
because the kids are growing up, so the toys, it's their adventures through the kid growing up, aging out, another kid,
Right.
and then eventually, like, what purpose do we have when our kids grow up? And
Yeah.
What was what is it 3 where Andy finally gets rid of him? Or is it 4?
It's 3.
3? Because then they're
Because
already
he gives the
body.
box to the girl.
He gives the box to the girl at the end of 3. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Bonnie, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right. Okay.
But anyway,
No, I don't. But like, I don't disagree with
yeah.
about any of that. And to the point of like trying to, I mean, we've seen it in the last month, right? Hocus Pocus 2, this new Christmas story.
Hocus
Yeah.
Pocus 2
Sequel?
is pretty bad. Do you guys watch that?
I never saw the
No.
first one, so I really wasn't going to race out and watch the second
Yeah.
one.
But I mean,
You race to your TV. I was streaming.
I know people love. I mean, that's another one of the nostalgia.
That's a nostalgia one for sure.
Hocus
My
Pocus,
sister loves
but
that movie.
Goonies for girls,
Totally.
right? Like it's not good, but you saw it at the right age, and so you love it
Goonies is
But
good.
even if you love the
because you
first,
saw it at the right age.
but if you love the first Hocus Pocus, it's unfortunate. The second one just is.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the Christmas Story thing, going back. I mean, when did Christmas Story come out?
The original Christmas Story,
Yeah,
1983.
Okay, 2022, and we get like a legit
Yeah.
sequel, right? Because there is a second Christmas Story, but
So
it's not.
that's based on a book called "In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash."
Yeah.
and it's a collection of short stories that were originally published in Playboy.
Hey, now that's where
Yeah.
Stephen King published stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, Playboy back in the day was a very real magazine where you could see. But like, so they did real things. So they did long form interviews, and I mean, interviews that would go on for 20, 30 pages.
Yeah.
I mean, they were really trying to be like, we're not just boobs, but
Can I tell you that I still remember what those smell like? Like
Yeah.
the magazines.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
magazines. Okay.
Boobs too. I know
Yeah.
what those smell like. Yeah.
well, you know,
But
2 of them smell.
That's
like.
true. Well,
Yeah.
I've had more than 2.
Yeah, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
I better be. And the answer better be yes.
But
for
like
that.
they would put like cologne in those.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah, and I still remember the smell of that
yeah.
cologne. Yeah.
But so there's been 7 or 8 movies based on that
short stories from Playboy.
book.
Oh.
So
really?
Oh yeah, like PBS made a whole bunch of them, and like Matt Dillon was in one. Like they made a bunch, but they weren't all Christmas related, right? Like what A Christmas Story did was just pull out the Christmas stories.
Is
and make-
Vacation, or was there one about going on vacation?
There's Our Summer Vacation with I think Kieran Culkin,
Okay.
and Charles
Oh.
Grodin.
Okay.
Yeah, I know
And
that
that's
one.
a
Okay.
Gene
Yeah,
Shepherd.
and it's
Yeah.
called My Summer Vacation,
Okay.
and then it's also it was also released on video under a different name.
Mhm.
I forget what it's called. Or My Summer Story. Maybe that's what it's called.
I hate that when they change the names and then you're
Yeah.
confused about like, what isn't this called? Like they release it in theaters under one, they
Right,
change
right.
the name
Oh,
on
yeah.
home video.
It was like that soccer movie.
Which one was that?
The one about it's like the greatest game ever played. was the original title, and then when it went to video, it was called like The Miracle.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
Live, Die, Repeat.
Yes, exactly right. That's a good
But
one.
so like they've made a bunch, but
Yeah.
then there was an actual Christmas Story 2, which we reviewed
We
on the
did.
show.
We did.
And
Daniel Stern is the dad.
it's
right.
awful.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
He goes in that one.
Real bad.
Yeah. But yeah, so like there's a lot of Gene Shepard, Ralphie.
Yeah.
Well, Ralphie's coming back, baby.
I'm excited to see it. We'll have to. I think we should cover that one.
What a cool
Figure out how to
career!
fit
Like
in.
that guy's had an interesting career as like a
Is
child
he a
actor.
director?
No, he was Vince Vaughn's buddy.
He's a
And
producer.
He produced
and
a
they-
producer,
Vince
okay.
Vaughn and him became friends,
and then he got
working together.
he did some Marvel stuff. I think he
I
produced.
think he's
some-
like an executive producer on the first Iron Man. Or
yeah,
something.
Oh.
yeah, and then he
it's
has-
weird. It doesn't seem to be in the. I don't think it's in the credits, but it's on its IMDb, or maybe it's the other way around.
But then he's
Yeah.
in Spider-Man 2. Like
Oh.
he's in
Yeah.
the No Way Home. Like he's one of Mysterio's like buddies.
Oh, okay.
He's
Yeah.
one of the producers on Elf, right?
Yeah, oh,
And-
yeah, big
and
time.
he's in it.
Yeah.
He's got a cameo in Elf.
I think he did a lot of those like laugh pack
Yeah,
movies. Like he did, but he was like a buddy of Vince Vaughn. And he
Okay.
would produce all of his stuff.
Yeah.
yeah.
So this one is like we said, we're 10 or 15 years post Enchanted, and life isn't as easy as it was for Giselle and McDreamy.
It's a clever title, Disenchanted.
It is.
It
And
really,
I-
I didn't know it was about this. I didn't look up anything about it. And I'm
They
like,
should have
oh,
called it, since it's
Disenchanted.
the second one, they should have called it Dose Enchanted.
Oh,
Huh?
I mean, it couldn't have been any worse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look, Disney Plus is abbreviated D Plus for a reason sometimes.
that's true. That's true. That's fair.
No, this isn't a D movie.
No,
but-
no.
But
But
it's not a good movie.
it is. I do briefly want to touch on like that the Netflix model that Disney has now figured out,
Right?
and it's like
Which is keep raising your rates.
that's exactly what it is. But like producing your own content, and where Netflix has to produce like original stuff, right? Because they don't have the rights to Enchanted.
all right.
or
Disney
they-
has
they-
the IP.
Disney
Yeah, they-
can be like, I'm gonna go make a new Marvel movie,
Right,
But we're
Dis-
gonna put it on Disney Plus.
Disney's got IP that people have nostalgia for.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And
and
Netflix, is
has to-
trying with Extraction. They're trying to build up.
Oh,
the,
sure,
the
sure.
old guard, whatever the Charlie.
Oh,
they're
that's bad.
making sequels to these different action movies, and they're trying to make their Red Notice 2 or whatever.
Yeah,
when
they're
that
never going to get it.
Oh, you don't think so?
No, I think because people consume media in different ways, right? We have nostalgia for a lot of these movies because we didn't have as many options.
Sure.
We would watch them over and over again.
True.
Christmas Story,
24 hours straight.
Christmas Story made like $4 in the theater.
That's a good point when you
And-
talk about the theatrical runs of movies that
Yeah.
you'd see all summer and then play on TV, and
Yeah,
you were
it-
forced to watch the same
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
a lot.
It's like I remember like
Yeah.
It's a Wonderful Life, right?
Sure.
Falls into the public domain, gets played on TV all the time. And so I remember it being on TV all the time when I was 15, 16, right? And there weren't as many things to watch. And
Yeah.
so I would be like, "Oh, I'll watch It's a Wonderful Life again" because it was always
Especially
on.
at Christmas time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Grinch. Love the
but
Grinch.
but like in today's world, if I was 17, I'd be like, "Well, I saw it this year. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go pick from one of these other hundreds of Christmas options
Oh
I
my
have."
god!
I'm gonna go to Hulu
Thousands.
and-
yeah.
or
And so, like,
Netflix,
I
yeah.
don't think people spend the same time with the material to order to develop that sense of nostalgia. You watch Extraction, it's fine, and you go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're just constantly, like you're
It need-
like a
it-
shark. You have to constantly be moving.
It
or you
needs to be
die.
something special
Yeah.
for it to stick. And
For sure.
like
Well,
you know,
especially as I get older, this is kind of what I was talking about last week with Black
You're
Panther.
closer to death. You don't have time to rewatch something.
But,
right?
but,
You
it's,
gotta-
but there's a million other things out, and so it's like if a movie isn't just extraordinary,
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Like for me to choose to watch the same movie again, where I know a lot of people, it's like comforting and they like to know what's going to happen, and they enjoyed it, so they watch it again. But for me, especially as a film critic and movie buff that wants to get through this stuff, I think of the thousands of other movies I've never seen.
Sure.
And it's really hard for me to work in on the time, not with the kids and not with
Yeah.
Katie and not doing stuff for this show and all that, to like, oh, let me put on the same movie I've seen. Like, I just don't want to do that.
As much as I love Christmas movies, I hardly ever end up watching them at Christmas time because we've got so many screeners to
Yeah.
watch
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
have to watch for critic purposes.
There's like 4 that's in the rotation that's usually every year.
Yeah.
It's
Which ones are they?
Home Alone, Christmas Vacation,
Die Hard.
Die Hard. That's not unfortunately that's all year round.
Okay.
I'll watch
fair.
Die Hard all year.
Yeah.
some version of the Grinch, whether it's the Jim Carrey, the cartoon, or the Benedict Cumberbatch one. Some version of the
new
Grinch.
one's pretty good.
I like the Benedict Cumberbatch.
Produced or directed by Scott Mosier.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
co-directed by Scott
I enjoyed
Mosier.
that one. And then it's kind of a hodgepodge, but I
Yeah.
guess 3 is.
I
more
watched
like
the Rankin Bass stuff.
Oh, that pops up every once in a while.
But those aren't movies.
That's true. There were TV shows.
Yeah, but I yeah. I mean,
I'm
like,
saying we're talking about movies. So I
Yeah.
don't feel like that counts in the same way. It's not, and it's
Gotcha.
shorter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think those are kind of the ones that are in constant rotation.
Yeah.
A Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to this. So life isn't as easy. The daughter has grown up and now she's kind of the cynical teenager.
but she's still close with Giselle because like she calls her mom, which
She
I was
does call her
surprised
mom.
by. I'm like, wow, so they are close and they have a good relationship.
I had asked Leanne. I was like, "Is that her mom?" And she was like, "No." And I was like, "Okay, I can't remember. It was so long ago since I've seen that other one."
But they plant that in there, and clearly, so they can take it away later. So you see how jarring it is. Like when she says "stepmom," that's
Yeah,
a
right. It's
dagger.
like,
but they've grown close over these past years.
10 to 15.
I was
we
gonna
don't
say,
know.
I'm like, yeah, these years.
And they've decided that maybe it's time to leave the city. And
She's trying to save their marriage, is what she's trying.
Did you
to do.
Did you think that? Because I didn't
when
pick
you
up
saw
on that
them
at
like
all.
being tired and sleeping?
They've
I
got a
just figured
newborn.
that's life.
They've got a like
well,
that's.
they're trying to save the marriage.
Maybe. I just feel like that they. Okay, I don't disagree.
They're
but
not butting heads, but it looks like the beginning of them becoming distant.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're like
Okay.
yelling at each other.
Disenchanted.
There we go.
They're not. This isn't Marriage Story, but
Oh my god! Sign me up for that movie.
but they're losing time with each other, which is going to grow you distant. And Giselle, I
Well,
think
you
is-
had 10 years without a baby, so you had a good run.
Yeah.
Like that's the other thing.
Game
It's
over,
like,
bro.
It's like the fact that they would have a baby 10 years in, like that. I mean, I
Yeah.
know we're not supposed to critique other people's family planning choices, but they're fictional characters, so I'm going to do it. It's kind of weird, right?
It's
Like,
yeah,
like 10 years later,
yeah. That's fair.
like that just
That's a long time.
That's a long time for Patrick Dempsey, who's pushing 60, to wait.
I know. I just keep thinking like by the time the kids are all out of the house,
By the time that kid is out of the house, yeah, he's
Jeez,
going to be
he's
like in a
70.
wheelchair.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's why, like, when they talk about him, like, you're just going to ride the train for the rest of your life. And I'm like, they're not lying. Like, if you're planning on working for the next, like, he's getting close to retirement age. He's got to have money from being this hotshot lawyer. Like,
He was
you
3
would
weeks away
think.
from retirement.
Yeah, he was born in 66. Doesn't mean the character's the exact same.
no,
age,
but you
but
presume
if
that he's
roughly the age he is, unless
Yeah.
you're told otherwise.
Right.
So yeah.
That's.
I was just thinking,
a lot
like,
of train riding.
maybe he's retiring soon. Not, oh, you're going to be doing this the next 15 or
No,
20
he's got a kid to
years.
put through school.
Right.
The first bit that I
And
think
a rundown house to fix up.
I know,
There's
yeah.
your movie.
that is your
That's
it's-
frustrating.
It's the money pit.
It's Money Pit, but with
that would have been a better plot.
it would
I
have been a
think.
better B story for him.
Yeah, to be doing while
Yeah.
there's other stuff going on. Because when they move into that house, I turn to Katie and I go, they couldn't have waited to move until. What was the rush of getting out of New York? There was
Right.
no immediacy. I mean, she wanted to.
And that
get to-
apartment in New York could not have been cheap.
Heck no.
and
So
yeah, they got money. Like to me, it was frustrating that they moved into a house getting work done because I'm like, they wouldn't have needed to
Why-
do that.
why
They're
are you
not
rushing?
like financially. It's not like these people are like, oh, we had to sell it because we have no money or whatever. Like,
That was a good B plot too.
yeah,
Is we had to sell it because we had no money.
yeah. There's just something about this movie that feels, for a 2-hour-long movie, it feels like they stretched the plot where I think they could have gone into some more interesting.
I don't even I think that the idea of her getting the wand and accidentally wishing herself to be the villain of the story is
Totally.
insanely great.
yeah.
But
No, it's an
I
interesting
agree
concept, but
that, that doesn't happen until like the last 40 minutes. Like the turn kind of happens, and
probably happens more close to halfway.
You think so?
But to me, it's like that's an interesting concept, but all the stuff around it to me didn't grab me. It was like, okay, run with that idea, and if there was better writing and better songs, because the great thing about the first one, you've got Alan Menken, doing the music, who is obviously phenomenal, and those songs are really good, and they're really funny.
Right.
And really heartfelt. Like, all those songs are really good in the first one. Every time they busted into song and they were trying to recreate the magic from the first, when the villagers are all doing their thing,
yeah,
which looked a lot like Beauty and the Beast. It looked
a
like.
lot.
So
like, I wonder if that was like a Beauty and the Beast set
yeah, that's
that
funny.
they repurposed.
But like
Yeah.
talking about the Easter eggs and stuff, that was a big one. I'm like, that looks just like the Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah,
So, but when they burst into song, that's like that. how do you know? Like when New York City and all the construction workers are bursting, or something, they were trying to get another big number with villagers and recreate it, and it just didn't work. The song wasn't as good. It wasn't as funny.
Because what was funny was them making real world people fall into these musical numbers, where this just looked like a fairy tale number. Yeah,
and it wasn't necessarily a good one. I'm not saying they did a bad job, but it just didn't.
It was meh.
It didn't wow you.
Enchanted.
The choreography wasn't that great. You know, the people weren't exactly in sync as much as you would hope. Like when you watch West Side Story, or even In the Heights recently, and you look at that choreography and how perfect
they've got
close
that
to
down,
perfect, and the camera work, which obviously talking about some amazing filmmakers. But when you watch that choreography and then you looked at this it looked flat and it just wasn't as interesting, and the songs weren't as good. Like I could not tell you. I watched this yesterday. I could not tell you one song except for "Love Power."
They played that 3 times,
son. But that's the Idina Menzel, and then they put it over the credits when she's talking about "Love Power," and I just know it because I remember watching, being like, I get it, Love Power. Like it's not that interesting of a song, but that's their big one, and I don't even. It's not that good.
It's funny. I remember we kind of had this discussion about Frozen 2. And how like Into the Unknown was gonna. They were like, I mean, they want that to be their big song, and I gotta tell you,
that's grown on me. I
was just thinking that.
I saw Frozen 2, and I'm like, it's just not as good as the first one.
Good.
Those songs, and I'll tell you what. Every time I hear them, or when we rewatch them, I'm like, it's a good movie. These songs are good.
It's so interesting how that like.
I think it just had. It was in the shadow of the first, which was amazing.
Yeah,
and it's hard to live up to that. But then sometimes you hear things a few times and you go like, okay, now that I've put aside my, this isn't the first one, and you're just watching for what it is, you're like,
like Grease 2.
Not like Grease 2. Also covered on the show.
A lot of Grease 2 fans out there. A lot of our listeners. And Katie's one of them.
Oh, really?
Saw it at the right age.
It's Michelle Pfeiffer.
And again, it's a movie that played on like Cinemax all the time.
Or Channel, yeah. But
Need a cool rider.
It's all right. One of the things that I thought was really funny is she has this power, quote unquote power, to attract the animal life
around
her.
It's a princess, Disney princess.
Of course. And I love that it's pigeons and rats and cockroaches. Which I was like, solid.
It's a joke from
That's
the first
really
one. She brings back all the random creatures.
So anyway, they decide to move out of the city and they move into this Monroeville, which I got to tell you, also normally full of zombies. If you know anything about George Romero, Monroeville Mall is where the Dawn of the Dead takes place.
Did Kevin Smith also?
The Monroeville Zombies are the hockey team in
that's good.
Zack and Miri. Yeah. I had one of those shirts for a long time.
Did you?
Yeah. So they move, and it's initially the way I thought this was going is that they were moving into all of our main characters who are real people. We're just going to take on the characteristics of Disney villains, right? Or fairy tale villains. Yeah. So Maya Rudolph is playing the evil queen, and she's got her 2 like minions who are there.
What's clever because they fall right into it. When it becomes a fairy tale, the real people are already doing the the traits of a
the tropes of like
of a I don't know. She's not the mayor, but the head of the town. It's called. Her name is Monroe.
I think
it's Monroeville.
I think she's supposed to be.
She's basically like a mayor type or whatever, in her lackeys. So I think it was smart how there's those analogs of here's the real world equivalent of those things, and then now, of course, when this story becomes a fairy tale, they just slide right into place.
Which I was like, I was initially I thought that it was the same story, but we weren't going to get the fairy tale aspect. It was just going to be these real world
that has fairy tale elements
that you can pick up on. Like, okay, I know who that's supposed to be. I know
exactly.
So, and it's not going well. The daughter does not want to be there. And just when you think things are going to be okay, like the daughter's clothes get set on fire, so she has no clothes to wear. And
instead of going out that day and buying her new daughter new clothes,
the same thing.
She's out doing bake sale or talking to the mayor and doing all this. And it's like, you had the whole day to get her some clothes.
Just get her some jeans and a T-shirt, something. Yeah. You got enough money. You sold that giant ass townhouse in Manhattan. So the daughter ends up having to wear, of course, one of Amy Adams's dresses, which is just very bright and flowery, and this is not the daughter's vibe at all.
I think this is just such a played out trope of the clueless parent dropping the kid off at school and saying which her version of that is like singing, which would be embarrassing, but
I think that's what makes it better is she does sing it.
I mean, it has its own twist on it, but how many times have we seen the parent embarrassing their kid? Like, you know what I mean? It just kind of was
Into
like
the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Well, and that was pretty. That was just a funny.
Say it. So she goes, and of course the prince of this town is it's funny, my daughter watched, on Disney Plus, they had a bunch of those like kid shows, and apparently there's one where these kids run a toy store. I don't know what it is, but this kid is from that.
Okay.
But he's much bigger now. He was like a little kid on that show. He's much bigger now.
But the prince of the real world prince is the son of
Maya
Rudolph's character. Yeah.
So, yeah, and the daughter's not having a good time. Things aren't really. Patrick Dempsey's trying to put on a brave face, but he's not the happiest about having to take a train into the city every day. So things aren't going well. And then here comes the prince, or I guess the king and queen of not Arendelle. And they kind of
James Marsden,
Idina
Menzel's
Menzel.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was she in the first one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She was engaged to Patrick Dempsey, and then they switched. The prince that was chasing Giselle James Marsden went with Idina Menzel, and then obviously Dempsey with Amy Adams.
Got it. So they come, and it's basically like, look, are you poor? Like, what is going on with this place? And it's like,
I love
he
James
was all in,
right?
Yeah,
I love James Marsden. I mean, he's been in the last 2 Sonic movies.
Yeah,
right. He's the main guy, the opposite Sonic. This movie, I really like James Marsden.
He loses his girlfriend to Superman.
Yeah, well, he's a host in Westworld. Rest in peace, Westworld. But in these kids movies that he does, he really does go all in.
He does,
and you got to give him credit, and he's good at it. He was funny in this movie. I thought the writing between him and Dempsey and trying to give him a sword and all this
take it. I was like, you're just gonna give him the sword and not the holster.
I know. And then he goes in the house to put the holster down. I'm like, yeah, he should have that on.
Give that to Sheath. Thank you.
I couldn't the holster. Well, yeah. Joe's World.
Yeah, it's a holster.
Hand me my long sword. This is from his favorite movie, Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, that's the best movie ever. They end up giving her this wand, and the only way you can use this wand...
They give the daughter as a gift.
Is it the daughter?
They give the daughter, the little
baby,
her present for to celebrate her birth.
To be a baby.
Congratulations, you're a baby.
Here's this ridiculously powerful magical tool.
Yeah.
And so that's what it's a wishing wand, and you have to be a true person of this animated whatever the kingdom is. You have to be from the kingdom.
You have to be a true child of Andalasia.
Andalasia?
God,
is that
dang, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Andalasia. You have to be from there to be able to use the wand. So if you're not from there, you can't use it. So what happens is things go real bad. And it's just, and I wouldn't even say real bad. It's just real life stuff that Amy Adams apparently is not able to cope with.
Yeah.
It's just, your 16-year-old daughter is going to be mean. It's just what it is, and maybe this house isn't ready yet.
It's the typical, you moved her from her friends in her school to this new place, then you're embarrassing her in front of all the new kids. And
your husband isn't totally happy, but he's just put on a brave face for you.
So that's the thing. I mean, again, this gets in some real depressing territory, which, again, I get that it's more realistic, but I'm like, geez. She's like, when was the last time you were happy? And he couldn't even answer it. And he's like, I'm not unhappy. And you're like, oh,
yeah.
You guys
are also you got a baby right there.
Right.
Come on, man.
When's the last time you were happy? Right. Our daughter was born 6 months ago.
Right.
I mean, no, that's why I'm saying, they are on the verge of, it looks like their marriage is not going well. They're not happy. Neither of them are.
It's tough. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
But it is. So she ends up making a wish that she wishes that she had a fairy tale life. And then all the things, she wakes up and it's basically Beauty and the Beast. That's that world, right? Where everybody, I do like the hand movement, where they're when they react to things. I was like, that's very.
This part was hilarious. This is where the movie took a shift. See, I think the beginning was drawn out and it was depressing, and I was like, oh man, this is a bummer with the happy ending in the great first movie. Then when her toasters started singing to her, and then the daughter comes out and is singing, and she's kind of like Cinderella.
Yeah,
that's where we first got the clue that it's like, oh, you're going to be the stepmother, because she calls her stepmother, and then she's dressed like Cinderella, and she's like, I'm going to go do the chores, but with a happy face, and she's singing about it. And
she was, I think she ends up saying I'll see you later, stepmother.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh no, I know what's going to happen.
But it was funny. The toasters are singing to her and the blenders or whatever. It turns into a fairy tale opening. And, And then that's when you get the villagers and they do the big
production
choreography with all
thing,
that.
Yeah. So the twist is while Amy Adams is at the market, the clock rings 1 or noon or something. And there's a character shift where all of a sudden, like, her eyes kind of turn golden.
She's talking to Maya Rudolph, and she says something really rude that Giselle normally wouldn't say. She says what she's thinking,
right?
Which is like,
well, I think she says what a wicked stepmother would say, and it's like it's this weird. It's a tough thing to do. It's this condescending, like, tone and, like, verbiage, but you're not, like, if somebody's saying that to you, it's sarcasm.
Yeah.
It's snarkasm,
right?
If somebody were to say it to you, you're like, Are you taking shots at me right now?
If you just read it without tone, it could go either way.
Right. So now we realize what's happening, and they find out that they have until midnight to reverse the curse. Otherwise, it stays like this forever. So Amy Adams is doing this. I think it's fantastic. Like the flip back and forth in mid scene.
Yeah.
Of wicked
Sometimes
stepmother.
Sometimes
mid sentence. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the way
when it started going back behind her. I was
that was
just
a little
like,
silly. But
yeah, I don't know. It was a little goofy to me with the going back and back and back. I was like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah, but I did like that. She would be having.
She was good.
She'd be having a conversation, and then it would
snapping back and forth. Yeah, and I liked her as evil. I'm like, that's fun. We got to see Amy Adams get to have more fun with, like, do something different with the character, play an evil version of this innocent, lovable, because it's such the opposite of Giselle from the first one.
Right.
You would never think that she would have that in her to be evil. So I did enjoy getting to see her do that. But it was kind of weird having two evil queens too. I think, or like evil queen and. You know what I mean? The character's the same. You don't usually have two in a movie. So I thought that maybe kind of like, even though it was...
I think you had to turn Maya Rudolph. At least until everything flipped back.
Yeah, make her the good guy because, like, Amy Adams is so evil or something. There was just something missing from that dynamic because it was just like, okay, there's two evil queens, which is a plot point, but it also, to me, played a little messy with... I wish there was something more...
Yeah, like Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13.
Exactly.
Ding, ding, ding.
That's what we were all thinking.
Can't have two heels.
Can't, it's a...
Well, how do you walk without two heels?
On the balls. Yeah, the tippy toes. Yeah.
I'm not walking on my balls.
Yeah, you might at some point.
I weigh too
much.
Just wait.
Yeah, just wait. So things are going bad. And finally, Giselle realizes that she has to. The only way to stop this is to get the daughter, the stepdaughter, into unobtainium, whatever it's called. So she pushes her down the well, and I was like, well, that's very evil stepmothering. But she was the good version at that point. I was like, oh, dang. And she goes in, and we find out that because of this wish, all of the magic from this town is being sucked out and brought into the real world, and it's destroying this world. And I did appreciate that, like, the kind of throwbacky Disney animation. It's not the best.
Oh, it's real rough sometimes.
Yeah. They farmed it out to thing in Canada. It's not.
Oh, is that right?
Disney actually doing it. It's another. It's an animation coming out of Canada.
There are
Disney-esque
moments that look like I would even say, but like,
it's more like the Funimation knockoffs of
Because I do think the animation is really strong, like all the way up until the Princess and the Frog. Like that, I think that animation is really strong.
Yeah,
and then it kind of does take a weird dip, but then they go to
but this one, there were times where it was real herky jerky and the face movements, like it was just weird. Like it rushed. Like they did not get to fine tune it.
No, the animation in the Enchanted is pretty great as well.
Yeah, they did a really good job with the animation. I mean, this looked rushed to me, or lower budgeted.
Yeah.
And so maybe they had to get it out in time, and with COVID, and they just didn't have time to fine tune
it. It is interesting when you keep saying that, but these are coming out
over the last couple of years.
Yeah, so they had to film during COVID.
Yeah.
Right. So we find out that there's this tree of memories. Like that's the thing that I guess was keeping unobtainium alive.
That's in the beginning of the movie, Giselle says to the stepdaughter, she hangs it up and she's like, we can't get rid of this. This is your tree of memories, and it's a custom from. I just said it. I can't. And what is it called?
Andalasia.
Andalasia?
Oh. That's
we'll go with that.
Sure.
So it's one of their customs where
plantar fasciitis.
They make these trees and for all their memories, and so it's something that she's like, we can't get rid of this, and so it becomes a plot point later, where she uses the magic from the memory tree.
That's really what it comes down to. Is they start to reignite the memories, which starts to like reignite the magic in this place. So they take they have the plan, right? The plan is they're gonna take it back. They're gonna show Giselle all of these memories, and it's going to fix the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, we go back to the ball, and which I assume was like, you know, the Monroeville Festival.
Yeah.
That now has become like this.
Right. It's
thing.
a festival, but in fairy tale world, it's a ball.
It's a ball, right. And there's the big showdown. And we should say that the chipmunk from the first one comes back, which I think is a very funny thing with the chipmunk where it becomes a cat because cats are evil.
And the cat looks like Lucifer.
It does a
from
little
those,
bit, yeah.
You know, the big puffy cat from those.
But I do think that was a
cartoons.
very funny, like, the squirrel's like, what's happening? Oh, no, I'm becoming an evil cat.
Evil queen always has. They don't have
I like
chipmunk. They have a cat.
When it's got its leg up in the air. And he's
Yeah.
like, I don't know why I feel the urge to lick myself or lick this, but I'm gonna. Ugh. Actually,
And they give him like a Bronx accent when he's because usually he squeaks. He's like chipmunk voice, but in the fairy tale world, I guess he can talk and has this Bronx accent. So when the Monroeville becomes a fairy tale, he gets that power to actually speak English instead of the chipmunk squeaking or whatever.
Right.
And so it's kind of
It was
funny.
fun.
Yeah.
So the big showdown happens, and the witches are, I guess the step, I don't know, the bad
evil queens.
the evil
There's like
queens
two
are
evil
fighting
queens
fighting each other,
and they're doing the. I mean, it looks just at Harry
It's pretty
Potter
bad.
versus Voldemort.
Yeah.
You know, it's the two colors going at each other,
right?
Pointing wands at each other.
Sure, and
Yeah.
then so the daughter shows up
With the
with
tree,
her own tree, the daughter's tree.
Yeah.
And of course, Giselle's like, let me look at that. And you think she's going to turn back to, and she doesn't. She tears it in half. And I was like, oh, that's pretty intense.
Rips it up and throws it in the air.
And then because she throws
But
it
the
in the air,
magic
but the magic
surrounds
happens
her.
anyway.
And all the
whatever.
memories start playing.
And they realize they've run out of time.
Oh, and it gets down to so when the clock strikes 12, it freezes. Like Joe said, it chimes 11 times, and then McDreamy is up there with his sword, and he sticks it into the gears, and like
both,
right,
McDreamy and the prince.
He
stop
Hudsucker
it.
proxies
He
it.
did Hudsucker proxy it. That's exactly
right.
right.
And then Maya Rudolph, because you know it's like
why didn't that?
It's a very long time to get to 12, but they, you know, he stops the gears, and she's like, yeah, hold on, she remembers, like, where's that 12th chime?
Also, that's not how time works.
Right. Like,
Right. It's weird that
the
clock.
clock isn't time itself.
Right.
It's a
But
arbitrary representation
Yeah.
of time.
And-
But in fairy tale world, I guess it has
Most of
to
the clocks in
chime.
my house aren't right anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
I
so-
imagine your house looks like Doc Brown's house with all the clocks lined up.
brother. There's a
And
lot of
plutonium.
alarms. yeah,
Yeah.
right. Unobtainium is what in my house.
Well, how would you get it?
It's exactly
It's
right.
unobtainable.
That's right.
Yeah.
Stupid
That's
Avatar.
why it's so rare.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Well, I can't wait for that.
Talk about 15 years. Avatar came out just barely after this movie. You know, 2009, I think. So,
Is that right?
I mean, they're pretty close, yeah.
So dumb. So dumb. Yeah. So they
It's not tracking to break records right now. So we may be wrong. Estimates aren't always right, but it is not on track where like Avatar was the biggest movie in the world at the time. This
Sure.
is not on track to de-seat anything. So we'll see.
Oh, it's good. Well, never mind.
I've always said there's no deep love for that movie.
There's none.
Like there's
it
no
was a spectacle,
Right time, right,
right.
place.
and that's what it
Yeah.
was. It's
not saying it won't make money because it is going to make
It's
a
gonna
ton,
make money.
and it's going to be popular. But yeah, we've always said it. It's like it was the most amazing 3D when 3D was a thing.
It was
and
the only, in my opinion, the only one that got it right. It is very rare for those 3D movies to work. and
It's
that's-
rare. I think that if you really thought back, there were some that were pretty cool, especially animated stuff that was made in CG, so they could perfect the 3D. I'm not saying I ever really loved
The
it. I know Tom
Jim
doesn't
Carrey
really-
Christmas Carol one was.
It
Pretty
was
great.
dark, but it was good.
It was
was
too dark,
good,
but yeah.
because it was all lit by candlelight.
Right.
They simulated it, but there were ones that were really good. That were made in 3D, not the conversions ones. There was even one I can't remember, but it was converted and it was good, and we found out it was post conversion. I'm like, well, that was one of the best 3Ds ever. So I don't know how they did that, but
Not Clash of the Titans.
well,
No.
definitely
Wrath.
that was
No,
one
wait,
of
was
the
it Cla-
worst, and that was post.
Clash or Wrath? Doesn't matter. They're both-
Clash, because it was Clash's first, and
Yeah.
then Clash made a bunch of money because it came out like
On the tails
like
of-
a month after Avatar.
Right,
People were
right,
like,
right.
I want more 3D.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, and then they got tricked into making a second one because they thought it was people
was a
loved
movie.
it. Yeah.
right. There's no love for that movie.
No.
So the fight happens, but they don't make it, right? So all of the magic starts to disappear. So everybody who was from blah blah blah,
They're Marty McFly in it.
They
They're
are Marty
They're
McFly
like
in it. Yeah,
disappearing.
right.
And
they are. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. They are Marty McFlying it.
they should put
And
a little
they-
twinkle in there.
Yeah, right. And so they all start disappearing. All of a sudden, the daughter realizes that she, because somehow this is the way DNA works, because Giselle says you're a daughter of blah blah blah
yeah,
too.
it's like,
This is dumb.
You're my stepdaughter, but you're really my daughter doing that. But it's like, but she's not a
But
daughter
she's-
of Andalasia.
right,
she's
like,
not.
I get that she's your real. I mean, or my son's a stepson.
Yeah, we're
Katie,
blended
it's
families.
yes, and of course they're really your family and all that. But for rules of magic and being a true, it's not like yes, she is her daughter in a family sense, but how is she a true daughter of Andalasia?
She's not.
never even been
yeah.
there other
Well,
than just going
just
down-
now.
But yeah, it's a weird rule to
Right.
Yeah.
So she wishes to have
The
her
movie itself never even animated her.
No, she goes to
She
the
did get
she goes in the
animation.
well.
Oh,
Yeah, she's
okay.
the one that goes in the well and they animate it.
Oh, okay.
But they're
But it's
doing
not.
away. I get what they're trying to do with
Yeah.
the family, and she's really her mom.
But I
I
don't like when she calls her mom. Like, 'cause she's not her mom. You had a mom who did a good job. She just happened to die.
Right.
Like, that's kind of. And I know some people get to that point, but I don't think most do. And I think it's kind of.
Especially that fast.
What's that?
Especially that fast. I feel like 10 years. I mean, I guess 10 years isn't that long.
Yeah,
it is
that's
a long
not-
time.
But still, like, she. It's not like the mom died in childbirth,
Right,
Or
right,
like
right.
she, like I don't know. It just
I
seems.
don't think there's anything wrong with having two moms, though. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with calling your stepmom, like, or if a stepchild called you dad, like, as opposed to Ron.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that part.
Did you have a Ron in your life at one
No,
point?
but I just mean, you know how you always see in movies, especially when
Right.
it's like you're not dad, you're all right, Phil.
Yeah.
There's no closeness, but like I think that's okay.
Those might be.
I mean,
like-
it's certainly okay if that's a choice somebody wants
Yeah.
to make. I just don't think that one, it's all that common of a choice.
Yeah.
and it seems almost judgmental for the kids that don't do that. Right.
I could see that.
That's true.
Those
Yeah.
two names were like the most stepdad names I've
That's
ever
why I
heard.
tried
Yeah.
to-
Ron
yeah.
and Phil.
Ron, for some reason, doesn't Ron seem
Ron
like
sounds
Absolute-
accepted.
Absolutely,
I don't know
it
why,
does.
but
No,
it's just.
I'm with you.
But
Yeah.
I just felt like when she calls her mom, and that's supposed to be our big tearing up moment, and I'm just like, but that means she's kind of overriding the memory of her actual mother,
who she actually spent time with.
whose only crime is dying. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I see that, but to me, I don't think one replaces the other. I just think it does show closeness. Because if you're that close to your stepmom to call her mom, then
Yeah.
it just shows that you've accepted her as a parent and not just a step parent, which in this movie, again, is like when she calls her stepmom, that's a dig, right? Because it's like, she's your mom now, like you're,
Right.
but you know what I mean? Not a replacement mom, but like you were that close and now, now you're just stepmom. And that's
I think that's the dig, right? That's why when she calls her stepmom, you're like,
right. So
ooh.
but I get by the rules. It's like, well, does that saying that now if you have a stepmom that's not as good as the mom because now that's a dig as opposed
Right.
like I get it. They're playing in a weird territory with these things, but either way, saying that you're a real child of
and now you can use the wand.
I just don't.
What I think would have been funnier or better
is if the baby did
if
something.
the baby did it.
Why the wand was for the baby, and I get that they said a true child of Andalasia can use it, and that's why Giselle does. But yes, why did they not
and
give the
especially
baby?
if we're in this animated fairy
Right,
tale
babies
world,
can do
Right.
it, yeah.
If
Why did they give the baby nothing to do? I get they're a baby, but like if they're not going to use it for any
there could have been all
funny-
kinds of stuff you could
funny
use it
plot
for.
twists and cartoonish things, I just thought that was a really
It's just
weird,
a plot device to get the wand.
right?
Yeah.
And so like come up with a different plot device.
Right.
Or even use
Exactly.
it, but make the baby do something.
Yeah.
The
You
baby should have saved them somehow. I really did think that's where they were going.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah,
But
there's this.
babies are useless. They are the worst.
I think they're kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right. But she says, I just want my. But the line is, instead of like, I want things to go back to normal, she says, I want my mom back.
Yeah.
And that just
That is-
resets the whole damn thing. Also, this is WandaVision. Like, it's the same premise as WandaVision.
I was thinking it was very similar to when they said we're going to this town,
Right.
And then it's going to be all something weird's going to be going on.
I was
of
like,
course,
well,
jump to WandaVision.
same company, same. All right, right on.
And now Giselle's taken over and turning
Right,
things
and
evil
she's kinda
changing.
bad.
She's changed all their lives.
Exactly
to, yeah.
right. All of these people were now prisoner. They put
Right.
they put
they all
poor
have to sing and dance, and
they put poor Oscar in a
They
freaking
did,
mirror.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Was Giselle all along?
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, she sets everything back and everything. Apparently only Giselle and the daughter remember. What happened?
Something about people that use
The people that make the wish remember it, and the people
Okay.
that are put under the spell of the wish only kind of remember it
think
as
it was a
like
bad dream.
It's like a half dream.
Okay.
That was funny when McDreamy is like, I had the weirdest dream.
We should say that he was like the hero, so he's fighting a dragon.
Well,
and then he fights
because he's
fights a
her
giant.
prince.
Right,
Like
right,
it
right.
was the funny part in the first one was he was just a guy, but he was like the equivalent of course, Giselle's looking for a prince, and so he was that. So then he gets the chance to actually become the prince,
Right.
Which the most of the comedy was James Marsden, the first one being a real Disney prince coming to life
in the real world, yeah.
And so Marsden must have been filming Sonic 2 or something. Like they purposely were like, oh, he stayed back to do the whatever. And he goes, that's code for didn't film.
Yeah, like I mean, they did that with almost everybody. I mean, even Patrick Dempsey isn't in the movie.
He's
all
barely
that
in
much.
it, yeah.
They filmed their scenes. And
It's like we need you for a week.
Yeah.
But I wonder if that's, to your point, that's COVID, right? Like we can film
Some of
Patrick
that.
Dempsey by himself and keep him isolated.
Oh,
we
that's
can,
true.
We can
Smaller
film,
sets
We can
and
film
everything.
Amy Adams by herself. And,
I'm also thinking Marsden's really busy. I mean, he had
Also
Westworld,
true.
he had the Sonic movies. Like he had become an in-demand actor at that point.
Sure.
He's always, he's been a good working actor, but like, he's gotten some of his pretty big projects, and so it was just interesting to see them sideline characters show up and then kind of
and then disappear.
Yeah.
Everything kind of goes back to normal. Amy Adams goes back to Maya and Rudolph and just like, hey, sometimes I get a little overzealous and I'm really sorry. And of course, Maya Rudolph apologizes and says sometimes I can do the same thing. So everything kind of goes back to normal. And that's kind of how this thing ends.
Yeah.
Is they get a second bite at Happily Ever After, and that's it.
I don't think we need any more of these movies.
No,
which
and
is sad because I love that first one so much.
But I do kind of agree with the statement that's like, if you're going to do a sequel to something, do it. But like
when you have
2
a
to
high
3
concept
years.
idea like that, it's hard to go back to that wishing well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dang. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's hard to get a second bite at that poison
Yeah.
apple.
Oh, it was definitely poison.
Yeah.
And I do think it could have been really good.
Yeah, and that's what's
That's-
frustrating is like there are elements in here that had they been fleshed out properly could have been as good.
Like
or
the
real
writing
close.
just wasn't as good, right? In
Yeah.
the first one, good concept, and the writing was funny, and it all landed.
I'd say it felt rushed, but we're 15 years out.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's not really
Yeah.
rushed.
Well, and when maybe from the time they got this idea to we can
I
get
guess
everyone
that's
back for
true.
a sequel.
Yeah.
But in this one, the writing, it's just the jokes weren't funny. It
Yeah.
wasn't as quaint because, again, so far removed, it's hard to believe that the fish out of water just doesn't play that far
not
out
at all. Yeah.
But I think it was cool to see Amy Adams having fun with it. Maya Rudolph's always good, so there were enjoyable things.
Sure.
It was entertaining, but I don't think I would ever want to watch this one.
It was more of a little kids movie than the first one.
The 6-year-old dug it
Yeah.
a lot. The 11-year-old, not so much.
Yeah.
But it's a musical, and what were the songs?
Yeah.
Tell me
couldn't
one.
tell
But
you.
aside from Love Power, and maybe because I just repeated it, but like, what were the songs in
You
this
can
musical?
repeat it all. I have no idea.
I just remember they rhymed the word batter with bladder. That's all
Oh
I
yeah,
remember.
because I could tell they were going for the rhyme before it happened. I'm like, oh, I gotta say batter.
yeah.
But like that's like in that first one, that how do you know that he loves me in the city? Like that's such a memorable
yeah.
moment from that first one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's on Disney Plus, so that, like I said, they've
You've got it, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, everyone's got Disney Plus, so it's not going to cost.
It's
anything.
so I think it's interesting to see their model where it's like, yeah, we're going to do our own, original Disney Plus stuff,
Yeah.
but we've got hundreds of years of content that we can spin off of.
Yeah.
I heard there's a new good documentary. Have you watched the Mickey Mouse documentary?
I have not
I
watched
just
it.
saw it pop up.
Okay,
Yeah.
I want to check that out. I heard it's good. So
Yeah, there you go.
speaking of 100 years, I
Yeah,
mean,
no joke.
Yeah. It's getting real close.
Real close.
So anyway, I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at JoeyButts, BUTTS21.
This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And this is Tom. You can follow me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at Facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online, Facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group, and of course, don't forget our Patreon. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, Little Red's grandmother is killed by the giantess.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, 'cause we already know.